Well, as a nurse, I've always been compelled to give of myself. I feel like I'm blessed with this abundance of love, and I always felt it was too much to give to just one person because one person didn't know how to deal with it. So I could give it to my patients. I had a patient at the VA. I worked for the VA several times, and the one in the Bronx in New York City. I had a patient that had AIDS. I had actually had two patients. One didn't tell anybody, and his room was a constant party. 40, 50 people in the room. You couldn't say, oh no, just two people. Like, they just partied and champagne and sitting on his bed and everything. And the doctor threatened to tell his friends if he didn't tell them. So I think the doctor eventually did tell his friends, and nobody came. And I watched that. That shocked me for him, his sense of loss. And then the other patient I had, was he was married, and his wife kind of left him because he was positive, and he had to get an X-ray. And I remember him coming back, and guys bringing him back, with hazmat suits on, like you see in all those viral movies about viruses and plagues and things. And he was in tears. He said, Veronika, look how they're treating me. And it just broke my heart, how they treated him. And so I consoled him as best I could. Well, my life was interesting in that I was a call girl. And we had other girls on the stroll in New York City die of HIV and AIDS. You see them one day and then they're gone the next. It was just one of those things. I mean, many girls were either killed we were all trans girls on the stroll, picking up dates and dating guys and everything. I went from high class call girl to street. It seems like as a prostitute, you think I'm bound to get HIV, and I did. I got real sick one day, and I took myself to the VA hospital in Manhattan, and they tested me, and they sent me home in an ambulance. They told me that to go home and make your arrangements, like you're gonna die. And I cried thinking that I was hurt, that I wouldn't see my youngest brother again. For some reason, I thought about him because we were so close, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know that I wasn't gonna die. So I tested in 1987, and they never actually gave me a diagnosis. And I didn't receive an actual diagnosis until 1989 from the VA hospital. And then they told me that I had 5 years to live. I just handled it. I don't know how I managed to handle it, but I'm a strong person. I'm a survivor. So I kept living my life to the fullest. I was a party girl. I'd always been a party girl, and I still partied. I drank, still did drugs and everything. Still did cocaine, and still dated. Oh my God, I felt so dirty. I felt nasty. I couldn't imagine laying with anyone, letting anybody do anything to my body, letting guys touch me. I just felt nasty, contaminated. And I didn't want to give it to anyone else. At one point, I thought that I might have given it to somebody, and that just devastated me, and thinking that I might have killed somebody. So I felt really, really nasty. It took a while for me to get over that, and to feel like I still had things to give. And I remember I had a sty in my eye, and I put some salt water in a pan and boiled it, and then put my washcloth in it and put the salt water on my eye. My mother and I were riding somewhere, and she goes, your father was going to make some breakfast, and he started to use that pan, and I told him not to use that pan because you had put your... I said, what kind of nurse are you? You're an RN? You've got to be the dumbest nurse I've ever seen. How can you be so ignorant, Mom? and stuff. But then she changed because my youngest brother got HIV. And then she did everything to try to save his life. I'm not a big pill popper, or I wasn't until I got the diagnosis, and then I became a pill popper. AZT for me was like taking poison. It was literally poison, and it affected me. I went from a size 9 to a size 18 from the drug, and so it was horrible. And I told the doctor, I said, there's got to be something else. I'm not doing all this. I don't want to take it anymore. And they told me that if you don't take your medicine, it's like committing suicide. I said, well, I'm not want to do that. So, I'll take whatever you have, but as long as it's not AZT, and as long as it's not something called D4T. So one of the early drugs that they gave, and one of the side effects of it is actually chest palpitations and stuff. So I was laying in bed, and my son-in-law, he was spending the night sleeping on the couch, and I said, Jeremy, I can't move. Can you come and help me? I need to call an ambulance, and can you come and help me? So they took me in and told me that was part of one of the side effects, and that I wasn't actually having a heart attack, but I felt like I was. You're going to die of something, whatever it is, whether it's a car accident or something falls on your head, whatever. You're going to die of something. But I feel like as long as I'm active and keep my mind sharp, and I'm active in the community, then I make a difference. So now I'm manager at the San Francisco AIDS Foundation of clinical assistant, internship, and phlebotomy program. And I do make a difference. I have interns that have graduated and are working within their own communities, Latinx communities and transgender communities and stuff. So I am making a difference. I am getting older. I'm older. I'm an anomaly because most trans women never make it to 72, and I'll be 73 this year. So I'm one, but I'm thankful, and I just think that aging is aging, and it doesn't matter what you have and what you just live your best life, whatever it is, whatever the cards that have been dealt to you, you work with them and live your best life. I think loneliness is probably the biggest thing, and so I go to groups. There's a group tonight at Open House, and I go to that on Wednesday nights, and I'm thankful that I'm alive. I think I have more to do.